Welcome back. Right in front of me, I have an HP Pro 3500 MT. The story behind this computer is I got it from an online auction for around 27 euros back in January. Went to pick it up personally and left it at my college dorm where it sat for half a year. I was finally able to try it out when I moved back home and fired it up for the first time. Yeah, I know, not very responsible of me purchasing something random and then not testing it out if it's broken. But hey, I got lucky. So what did I actually get for 27 euros? An i5-3470, which is a quad-core from 2012, clocked at 3.2 GHz and turboing at a staggering 3.6 GHz. Though funny enough, I actually never got it to boost that high, only to around 3.4 to 3.5 GHz. Up next is 4 GB of DDR3 RAM, surprisingly in dual channel. For the GPU, it's equipped with a Quadro FX 580, and it's a mouth-watering 512 MB of VRAM. I originally thought that that's the way it was shipped, but it was weird to me because why would they include a 3-year-old graphics card in a new machine? And after a second of research, I realized that it's not the original part. So my guess is that the original spec was without a GPU, and the original owner added it after. Still, I wonder how well it's going to hold up. And lastly, it came with its original 250 gig hard drive, which made me realize how good we have it today with SSDs. Its size also became an issue later on, but I will get into that later. The I/O is standard with 2 USBs in the front and 4 in the back, which all of them are only USB 2.0. Included are also multiple audio jacks, one RJ45 port, ports for the integrated graphics, and of course the video ports on the graphics card itself. Another typical peripheral of its time is the DVD drive, and the less common one being the SD card reader, which I still find very handy. So we have gone through all of the details about the PC, but one question still remains. Before we start diving into the results, I would like to mention that I wasn't able to record the screen directly with software because the hardware is too old to support that, and since I didn't want to sacrifice performance by using solutions like Fraps, I instead recorded the screen with the camera. With that out of the way, let's start with Half-Life 2, running at full HD at the highest settings. I suggest running this at a lower resolution or at lower settings, because in gunfights I had very unstable performance playing like this. It was jumping around from 60 FPS down to even 30. Up next is Left 4 Dead 2, which released around the same time as the FX 580, so this should still be a fair fight, and it shows. At 720p medium to high settings, we get around 40 to 50 FPS, which is pretty decent considering what this is running on. But I do suggest lowering the resolution or the settings, because as shown, in bigger gunfights with heavy particle effects, the FPS can drop as low as 15 FPS, which made it unplayable. Otherwise, still pretty good results compared to what awaits us. Moving a few years ahead, we have GTA 5. This is also where the first issues arise, but not in a way you might expect. When I was launching the game, I was met with an error caused by not having any audio device present. I fixed this by just plugging in headphones, and that was good enough. I never had that type of issue in my life with any other game. That quirk aside, the game ran, but it was clear that the computer was at its limit. With everything set to the lowest settings possible and the resolution set to 800 by 600, it averaged around 20 to 30 FPS at best. But as soon as it had to load anything new, especially around the city, it chugged hard. It simply didn't have enough memory to properly function. Oh, and don't worry, it's going to get a lot worse from here. Remember how I mentioned that the size of the drive would cause issues? Well, testing all of these games was made difficult thanks to that, because I would have to uninstall all of them if I wanted to test another one, and of course that would cost me a lot of time. Why? Because I have very bad internet, so downloading wasn't an option. I also wasn't able to connect it properly through Ethernet locally, so local transfers were not an option, and the USB speeds are 2.0 at max, so transferring large games was a pain in the ass. What made this process even more fun was the fact that the GPU was hiding a small little secret. My next titles were Apex Legends, Counter-Strike 2, and God of War 2018. But instead of launching into a graphical mess I was expecting, instead I was greeted by this error. What it means in simpler terms is that my GPU doesn't support that DirectX version and can't launch the game. Now, my dear viewer, if we return back to my spec sheet for the GPU, you will notice that it says it supports it. So what's the deal? Well, you actually got fooled just like me. If we zoom in a little closer, you will notice that it actually also says feature level is only 10_0. This basically means that it only supports very early DirectX 11 versions and will refuse to run almost anything, making it essentially a glorified DirectX 10 card. And that's how my testing was ended abruptly, since I couldn't even launch the games. So overall, was it worth it? Well, in its current state, it's quite useless for gaming. Like sure, for older titles it's fine, and if you seek that, then you will be plenty satisfied. But anything new won't simply run due to the age of the GPU. Not only that, the RAM is also a huge bottleneck. Having 4 gigs simply doesn't cut it anymore. But the story of this machine doesn't end here. In the next video, I will upgrade all of the current weaknesses and give this PC a proper fighting chance. So stay tuned, and until then, see ya.